Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Pat Garrity, Chief Executive Officer, Florida Blue, and Event Chair of the 2016 First Coast Business Hall of Fame.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Anchors of the Community, the 18th Annual First Coast Business Hall of Fame presented by the Florida Council on Economic Education. It's great to see so many good friends and familiar faces in the crowd today. Just looking around the room, it's clearly a who's who of the First Coast business environment. There's really no surprise, though, because we're here to celebrate 4 outstanding and well-deserving business and civic leaders as they're inducted into the class of 2016 of the First Coast Business Hall of Fame, a group known for honoring the business elite in Jacksonville. As we begin our program this afternoon, go ahead and enjoy your salad. And while you're doing that, please allow me to tell you a little bit more about today's program. In addition to honoring 4 exceptional Jacksonville leaders, we are also here to help support a very important cause: personal finance and economic education for our youth. As I mentioned, the Hall of Fame is organized and sponsored by the Florida Council on Economic Education. It's a statewide nonprofit organization that trains teachers and students in free enterprise, economics, and financial literacy. For more than 40 years, the Florida Council has been fulfilling its vital mission in training and supporting the training of teachers who then go into the classrooms of our communities across the state and educate our children in these important subjects. Informed and financially savvy citizens are critical to the future of our nation. And if they are educated in the basics of economics and personal finance, they will be productive workers, citizens, and future leaders. So in addition to honoring the key business leaders in the First Coast area this afternoon, this wonderful event also helps to provide funding for the Florida Council on Economic Education so they can continue to meet their mission. If you look at the list in your program of the past Hall of Fame honorees going back to 1999, you'll get a good idea of what a distinction it is to be inducted into this prestigious group. Today's inductees were chosen for their character, community involvement, and business success. The Hall of Fame class of 2016 will join an esteemed group of First Coast business leaders who've been inducted over the past decade and a half. The selection process is intensive. The First Coast Business Hall of Fame is not an organization you can apply to and then join. You have to be nominated. You are then voted on. In the past Hall of Fame honorees are part of the selection process, and the longstanding leaders of Jacksonville business community are involved. Former Hall of Fame inductees convene once a year to discuss potential nominees at length, and then they vote on secret ballot. To be considered, candidates must first have an exceptional business career. But business leadership and success is not the only criteria. They must also make a significant difference as a civic and community leader. There are big hurdles, and choosing this class of 2016 was very competitive and a great challenge. Please join me in thanking this year's Event and Selection Committee for their guidance during the nomination and selection process. The committee was made up of Barry Allred, Mike Pescone, Rob Clemens, Steve Halverson, Reverend Dr. Carlton Jones, Kelly Madden, Jerry Malott, Frank Martier, Chris Oakley, and Terry West. How about a round of applause for that group? Over the past 18 years, there have been 69 people inducted into the First Coast Business Hall of Fame. Their accomplishments and contributions to our community are legendary. I am proud to be part of this outstanding group, and it's always great to spend time with my fellow Hall of Famers and to welcome the new inductees into the Hall of Fame family and support the important work of the Florida Council. At this time, I'd like to introduce another Pat from Jacksonville. Pat Curran, economic educator and department chair at the Terry Parker High School and the 2016 Florida Economic Council's Educator of the Year. Pat?
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here today. Your attendance at this event is indicative of our community's desire to see children taught the principles of personal finance and economics. Over the past several years, I have had the honor and privilege of working with the Center for Economic and Financial Education at Florida State College at Jacksonville. Because of the great work of this center and other centers around Florida, over 2,600 teachers from across the state have been trained this year to become effective and passionate educators in financial literacy, free enterprise, and economics. 30 years ago, the Florida Council on Economic Education reached out to train me in teaching these topics. In that time, I have taught over 12,000 students in those very subjects. For most teenagers, the only financial education they will receive will be in high school. Today, I was asked to share my experience as a classroom economics teacher. One recent and very profound example for the need of financial literacy courses in high school came to mind immediately. You see, I'm a big believer that every student needs a standalone financial literacy course to provide them with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed as adults. On May 1st, 2014, a student came to me very proudly and let me know that they were the first person in their family to open a bank account. I wish you could have seen the pride on that student's face. But the event soon went bad when the student told me the bank gave them a credit card. When I told him it was a debit card, the student pulled it out, and it was indeed a credit card. I asked them where they worked, and their response was, "Oh, I don't have a job." Now that made me take a pause. How could a high school student without a job or any work history at all get a credit card? If you're like me, you probably didn't receive your first credit card until college or later. But these are the decisions our children are now faced with very early on. As a parent of a high school student myself, I can say this makes me very nervous. The stories I could tell about students like this are literally in the thousands. Our children are easy targets for predatory lenders, and at the moment, there seems to be no easy solution to combating the practice. One thing I can tell you is our children do need financial literacy. In addition to managing their own money, today's students will be our nation's workforce in a few short years. They will be your employees, government officials, and your children's teacher. They will be the driving force behind our nation's economy, whether they're ready or not. I am not the only educator who feels this way. Please turn your attention to the screen to hear a little more from a few of my fellow teachers about the virtual partnership with the Florida Council on Economic Education.
Few things are as rewarding as when a student tells you about a conversation they had with their parents the night before about the lesson you gave them yesterday.
A kid remembers supply and demand if they've actually acted it out.
Their eyes really brighten up like, I can do this for real, with real money?
I mean, I tell them, I know you haven't even gone to graduation yet, but I want you to think about your retirement. I want you to save.
All I can say is come into a classroom, watch kids in action, and they would be in awe of what they would see.
The mission of the Florida Council is to train one, teach thousands.
Train one, teach thousands speaks to me because of my military background in the Marine Corps. The most valuable person is the person who's training the instructors.
It basically takes one teacher, gives them the basics of financial literacy, free enterprise, and economics, and it gives them the skill to go train the thousands of students that they're going to interact with during the course of their career.
So what I love about being an economics teacher is I can teach the students, and that'll generate conversations with their friends, with their parents, and our community at large.
Students should begin learning economic literacy at the same time they begin learning any kind of literacy.
Ultimately, you have absolutely embraced an entire generation of kids in what I believe to be the most important set of skills that they can take from school. I mean, if you're not a good economic thinker and you can't manage your money, you're lost.
I was kind of reluctant. Economics sounded like math to me.
I just woke up one morning and they said, you're teaching economics.
When you talk to the average teacher, they're going to say, economics, oh my gosh, I nearly flunked. I had to struggle with how to draw demand, how to draw supply, and then they had those crazy things like markets, monopoly, and oligopoly. What was that? What the council does is they say, well, yeah, but let's look at what those theories mean in everyday life.
I don't have an economics background in my education, so most of my formal economics education has come through the Florida Council.
The most important thing to realize is that the teachers out there in the K-12 arena, we're not trying to make them economists. I want to tell the teachers who have a reluctance of becoming involved in economics education to talk to their friends who have had experiences here at the USF Stavros Center, or who have had experiences with the Jacksonville Center, or the Miami Center, or the Florida Atlantic Center, or the FSU Center, to find out how these centers and these programs can effectively support them with their work.
I'm the assistant director at the Florida Atlantic University Center for Economic Education. We do workshops for elementary, middle, high school teachers and basically lay out a menu of options for teachers.
The one that I've used the most in recent years is one that I actually helped to write, which was the Financial Freedom, which is just, to me, amazing. They bring it down into like how to do a budget, how to plan for college, those lessons are priceless.
Financial freedom deals with the students' actual lives. They want to know about buying a car, getting an apartment, living independently, financing college, having a bank account.
Teaches the fundamentals of credit, fundamentals of how to manage risk. So it's a wonderful device that is now available for free.
Last year, I was awarded the 3rd place prize in the Stock Market Challenge, and that was the first time I had ever done anything with economics in the classroom.
They get the whole concept of buy low, sell high.
It was just like, wow, I could do this for a living. And they really get excited because of that. And they come back every year like, I want to do it again.
I recently got a letter from a former student, and he wrote me to tell me he owned a business and he had 60 employees. And he was considered a special ed kid, and he's a successful businessman today. That tells me I'm doing what I need to do.
Smart consumers, critical thinkers, ethical leaders, that's what we need, and that starts in a classroom.
The Florida Council motto, Train One, Teach Thousands, is right on the money. I could never repay them because I am a better teacher because of them.
I would just like to add my note of thanks to the Florida Council for their hard work and dedication. The resources they provide, I use daily, or whether it's through the instruction or the actual resource itself. It's helped my student performance, and it's helped me as an educator and as a person.
The Florida Council on Economic Education needs support. It needs business people to take an interest and to help financially, to become engaged in their community. If you're a CEO and you're hiring people, if you have the opportunity to hire someone who understands good business practices, who understands what it takes to be profitable and to be efficient, and knows how to take care of their personal finances, would you rather have that person or someone who's just there to take a paycheck, basically does enough work to get through, and doesn't take care of their personal finances and may get into trouble and hot water? And when people get into personal financial trouble, do you think they're an effective employee anymore? Not at all.
For all of us, it's all of us working together against the enemy of financial illiteracy.
If someone wants to get involved in the Florida Council on Economic Education, they need to contact the organization. There are many different great programs that the Florida Council runs. They can support them directly. They can support them statewide. They can support them in their own community. We have 5 centers around the state. They can get involved in supporting that center and educational programs where they live. So this is a great way to have a direct impact on the quality of education, the quality of our financial future, and our quality of life.
The mission of the Florida Council is to train teachers in the fundamentals of economics, free enterprise, and personal finance so they can prepare students and your future employees to succeed in an increasingly complex and competitive economy. Thus the motto, train one, teach thousands. And while it may be a statewide organization, the FCEE understands that education happens on a local level. That's why they're partner with 5 centers of economic education around Florida. The professional educators and collegiate professors at each center provide local teachers with the training and the resources free of charge that they can take back to their classrooms and implement with their students and their fellow teachers. And as Pat mentioned, one of these centers is right here on the First Coast at Florida State College at Jacksonville. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Susan Riley and the director of the FSCJ Center of Economic and Education and Financial Education. Dr. Riley is instrumental in providing resources, programs, and training to teachers throughout Clay, Baker, Nassau, St. Johns, and Duval counties in partnership with the Florida Council. How about a round of applause for Dr. Riley? Right over here. Dr. Riley is a great educator and innovator. She has a great team of local teachers, and they participate in workshops and then take that knowledge and information back to their classrooms for the young people. But she'll also tell you it's challenging being a teacher these days. We hear it all the time, more and more demands and limited school budgets. And that's why, in addition to providing free professional development training to teachers, the Florida Council has had an extensive list of classroom programs and resources that are offered to teachers at no cost to them. On the screen are the FCEE signature competitions and programs. Each one of these is explained in greater detail in your booklets. The Florida Council is a public-private partnership between educators and the business community. It receives no state or federal funding. That's right, the big pitch is coming. It's events like today's Hall of Fame and the collaborations with other local, state, and national partners that fund these initiatives so educators can focus on what's really important, teaching. So I can announce today that this lunch has raised $180,000 towards these programs. Congratulations. That was the good news. The challenging news is the goal was $200,000, so we've got $20,000 to raise here today. You will notice that there are envelopes on your table. If you can help us at all in closing the gap to get to the $200,000 goal, that would be greatly appreciated. So if each table can figure out what they're going to do and leave that on the table, it will be collected and it'll be very appreciated. And speaking of generous support, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors here today, including Raymond James. Since the First Coast Business Hall of Fame began 18 years ago, Raymond James has been an annual presenting sponsor. Here's Amy Boggs with Raymond James to tell you a little bit more about being a sponsor of the Hall of Fame and what it really means. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to the new inductees of the First Coast Hall of Fame and to the legacy of all of the outstanding Hall of Fame members. It's wonderful that so many of you are here today. On behalf of Raymond James, I'm so proud to be, again, a presenting sponsor this year. Support of the First Coast Business Hall of Fame and the Florida Council on Economic Education is part of our fundamental belief in the importance of financial literacy. In fact, our founder, Tom James, is a past chair of the Florida Council and remains very active today in their business. As Pat mentioned, the Florida Council provides year-round programs and competitions for students to bring this critical information into their lives. Raymond James is a lead sponsor in the Stock Market Challenge, which is a great event for students who participate. They get $100,000 of play money to build a portfolio, learning about the capital markets and investing as they see fit. This competition not only offers lifelong lessons in investing, competition, but it also offers how the free enterprise works, reinforces team building, communication, and tremendous research skills. Last school year, over 18,000 students participated in the Stock Market Challenge. For many, it's a very positive life-changing, and learning experience. Now, Raymond James is not the only supporter of this year's event, so I'd like to take a moment to recognize all of the companies and individuals whose philanthropy has helped to make the 18th Annual First Coast Business Hall of Fame a huge success. So, presenting sponsors, Florida Blue and Raymond James. Platinum sponsors, FIS, Haskell, the Jacksonville Jaguars, ViStar Credit Union, Michael Ward, and Web.com. Gold sponsors, Drummond Press, Gate Petroleum, the Morales Group, the PGA Tour, Public Supermarket Charities, PwC, and St. Vincent's Healthcare. Additionally, we want to thank all of the many corporate sponsors for their generosity, who can be found in the last